Okay, so I mean, here's the engine bay of the Nova, and right in here is where the battery box originally sits, and it's pretty dirty right now. There's actually, I could have got there's like a factory battery mounting plate that goes in there. It didn't have one when I bought the car, and I could have bought one and put it in there, and it would have been the original one, but I wanted one that can mount different size batteries because I'm eventually probably going to put a smaller battery in. So anyway, I decided to move it to the trunk just because that's what everybody else does that has Novas. So, and my new battery box didn't fit in here very good, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So that's another reason why I put it into the trunk, because there wasn't a lot of space in here to mount it here. So I just ran this is just a ground wire from the motor up to here. So basically my battery box in the trunk and my ground in the trunk just goes from the battery to the frame of the car, then it comes through the frame up here and it goes onto this negative wire, then it comes to the motor, and that's one source of ground that the motor has. Then the starter is down in there. You can actually see my new orange wire. That's the positive wire that I ran. I ran it under the frame of the car all the way back, and then I ran it up into the trunk. I kind of wanted it under the car instead of inside the car, just in case there's like an electrical issue or something. I'd rather have it under the car. And I ran it along the side of the frame, so it's not anywhere that there's like gas or anything flammable. So I think it's gonna work pretty good there. So yeah, let's walk to the back of the car and then you can check out the battery box. So for now, I just mounted it right in here. This is the original battery that came with the car, so that's what I'm using for right now. Onto the battery box, which is made out of stainless steel, and then the battery box mounts onto the frame. So I mean, the negative wire basically attaches to the side of here, then it goes through the frame, and then it goes up to the motor. So, and then the positive wire goes under the frame, and then it goes up the passenger side to the starter. So basically I hooked all that up, and the reason I wanted one of these is so I can put any kind of size battery in that I want to. You can just loosen these and take it off, and then you can put a smaller battery in if you want to. Also got this one because I was going to put it into the front. I was going to put it into the engine bay, but now since I decided to put it back here, I wish I would have got a aluminum one, just because the aluminum ones are lighter and this is a steel one. So the reason I got this one is because it had things coming up here, and I wanted to mount it, to bolt it, and most of the aluminum ones don't have any mounting brackets to bolt on the side of it. So, and I actually cut off this corner here. This came up further, but I cut that off because it was kind of in the way. So anyway, after I installed everything, I took this tester and I tested the voltage on the battery here, back here. And then I also came up and I also tested the voltage down here by the starter. So where my positive wire connects to the starter, I put one lead on there and the other lead just to, like, you know, any part on the frame, just to make sure that the voltage is the same as back in the battery. Because, you know, if you got a big voltage drop from the battery to up here, then you obviously don't have a good connection. But my voltage was actually exactly the same, so I know that there's a good connection there. And you always want to watch out when, you know, putting a battery in the trunk. Make sure that you got a good positive lead. Make sure that it's not like too small of a wire. And so yeah, I'll be testing out this one. This is actually just this is made to use for 600 voltage, 600 volts or above. And what it is it's 3 10 gauge solid wires, solid copper wires. So it's 4 of them actually in here. So 4 10 gauge copper wires, and they're solid wires. So usually you'd use like one of these. This is a 2 gauge braided wire. So it's kind of the equivalent for, right inside this orange sleeve here, there's 4 10-gauge solid wires. Inside here, it's 2-gauge braided wire. So I mean, I kind of like the solid wire because the braided wire seems to like corrode and break faster. Because I mean, people like it better because it moves easier. This stuff you have to bend; it's harder. But I mean, I like, and the solid wire can transfer more electricity than the braided wire, just because, or when you go as far as size, because the braided wire doesn't have as much copper in, like, you know, one space than, like, you know, a solid wire would. So anyway, I'm going to be testing that out, making sure that none of the wires get hot and stuff like that, and yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Probably one of the next things I'll be doing is putting a fuel tank back in here, and I got frame connector bars that I'll be installing and a couple other things. But yeah, as of right now, it's basically just got it's a Chevy 350 and it's bored 30 over, and it has like new pistons and rods and all that in it. And then it's got like a 4-barrel Holley carburetor and also a Holley intake, so intake manifold. And besides that, that's pretty much it. I mean, this is basically how I bought the car. I did do a lot of things on the motor here, like that's the new air filter, a bunch of stuff like that you don't really see. And I redid the interior of the car, so it's still definitely a lot of work to do on it, and eventually repaint the whole thing as well. But yeah, if you're thinking about changing your battery, that's basically what I did. So yeah, if it helped you out, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video.